Okay, it's pretty late at night, and I'm gonna make one final video here, and um, uh, hopefully we can finish a lot of this. And the final objective in this whole thing is to make a debt to capital ratio input. So let's say we have a 40%, 50, 45%. Can't seem to type. And 50%. God. And then we using this, and then we can check this against the actual debt to capital ratio. Okay, I shouldn't waste a whole lot of your time by just typing these things in, but I can feel the boredom of this video now. Excuse me. What? I'm gonna cough. Okay. Okay. Well, I just try to open a regular old file and I can't seem to open it. Why can't I open it? Okay. And let's take the debt divided by, come on. Divided by debt plus equity, shift control P, shift control R. So we want to keep it constant. In this case, we're going to be able to have a lot of negative equity issuances. Okay, and let's make the first EBITDA 100. Okay, a really low one. And here's the idea of this one. When we do this, we have a loss. And our taxes shouldn't be negative. We should have a tax carry forward calculation. And unfortunately, when we have this tax carry forward calculation, we're going to have to include this in our special function that we made for the net cash flow, because the taxes, this time the taxes are affected by the income, and the last time we used cash flow before financing. This time we're going to have to use EBITDA, take away taxes paid, which is just up here, and we're going to have to reflect that in the function. Okay, so it'll get a little more complicated. Now, to include a operating loss, net operating loss, I can put opening NOL balance. It's really that. It's not the actual net operating. Yes, it is the operating loss. We add the increase from negative tax less the use from positive taxable. It should be taxable income, and then we have a closing NOL balance, and then we can have less taxes paid. we also could compute some deferred taxes on this one. Oops. Control minus. Oops. Control Z. What am I hitting? Uh-oh. Oh, I guess, okay. And let's start this. You could have a closing balance and try to derive it from the balance sheet. But for now, let's just make the opening balance equal the closing balance. And then the first thing we do is whenever, there's no limit on this, but I switch the minus to a positive. And then the closing balance is the opening balance plus the amount we put in minus the amount we use. And the taxes paid, let's say it's 30%. That we'll take the basic amount we had, add back the amount we put, and then in the account take the amount we have out of it. So it will always at most be 0. And oh, come on. And let's multiply this by the that's right. And now our EBITDA minus our EBT rather than minus this is so we have our net operating loss balance, and we have to pay taxes already in the second year. Let's see what happens. 61 of income. Open. Well, I haven't done this yet, of course. So the last thing to do is say, well, we only pay it back when this is positive. But the most we can ever pay it back is the minimum of this or the opening balance. So it's kind of a second use of minimum and maximum. And it took us a couple of years to pay off the taxes here. Our EBIT was less than the opening balance, so we could use the EBIT, and we still have 24 left over. In this case, the opposite happened, and then we have the actual taxes paid, and we have our final earnings. Okay, and now let's put the taxes paid down here in the cash flow statement. Just a minute. Make that issue. And I think it's because we started with the cash flow before financing. So our circular reference thing didn't work. And we shouldn't be we shouldn't despair about that too much, because what we're going to have to do now is press Shift 3. I really am doing this in the dark, so it's really difficult. And I shouldn't sigh like that, but I do. We're going to change this to EBITDA. I'm going to try to just change this to EBT. Let's see if that works. Or do we have to put them all in the end? Let's see how that works, okay? So, let's get going with this one, because I hate it when the blue lines are appearing, because there's nothing worse than blue lines. And let's start with our EBITDA rather, and then we better put in the cap X, because we have to subtract that. We haven't dealt with with the working capital change yet, but we will. Okay, and then do you see, where did we have the come on, net cash flow? Did you see that? Net cash flow. The net cash flow was this net cash flow, but this cash flow before financing, that's the one. And I hope that's the only time we used it. So we can put cash flow before financing equals EBITDA minus cap exp. Okay. Now, the thing we better do at the very beginning is save the file. Oh shit, see? I don't know. Well, that was kind of interesting. And now it has that the EBITDA is up here, and it didn't do it well. So let's press OK, and let's put the capex at the beginning instead of this end. Okay. Okay. Let's see if we can at least get rid of the values here. No, we don't have a circular reference, and our values are all fixed, but we have a very big difference here, and the difference here should relate to the taxes, but it might not. You know? Okay, and I'm gonna have to look at a whole lot more. Net cash flow. EBIT minus capex. Let's make sure we really subtracted the capex. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop for a minute. Okay, I'm coming back, even though should hang it up for tonight, but I called it cash flow before financing here, and I call it cash. Now, if we have no taxes, everything's fine. If we put a 30% tax rate in, we get a difference because of the taxes, and that means we need to get the tax rate and the opening NOL balance and compute our taxes paid. And so all we have to do is go up to where we computed the net cash flow before financing, and I might as well put minus taxes paid. Now the taxes paid equal the EBIT EBT. Adjusted EBT, how about that? Times the tax rate. And so that means we have to put in the tax rate. And to get back to the adjusted EBITDA, EBT equals EBT base, which is what I'll call EBT, and we subtract the and plus the NOL increase minus the NOL use. And we keep going back up. NOL use equals the maximum of the EBT 0, so we only do it when it's positive. We do a minimum of the opening NOL open or the maximum. So okay. NOL NOL increase equals worksheet function. And now we'll use just the maximum. 0 minus the EBIT, so it's EBT negative of it, of course, or 0. And what that means is we need the opening NOL balance, and after we do this we can put the new open NOL equal open NOL plus the NOL increase minus NOL use. I hope you see that we're just really copying exactly what we did before. And we might as well put that down here by the ending things. And we need to read in the opening NOL. And finally, we just need to get the EBT is EBIT minus the interest expense plus the interest plus interest income. Oh, it capitalized all the rest of them. I was wondering what it would do with the capital. And then we're finished. Okay. And let's see what happens. First save the file. And we need to put in the tax rate. And the beginning NOL. Made one mistake at least. Okay. The really good news is it didn't blow up. Bad news is it didn't work. And just let me stop it for a while. Okay, now the function for computing the net cash flow here, that's all working, okay? And it might have been a little bit painful, but we have a lot in here. We have minimum cash balances, we have average interest income, we have an NOL, an NOL function in the tax calculation. Now the last thing we'd like to do is get the actual debt to capital to equal the projected debt to capital. Shift Control C about time now. So these are our inputs, and we want these to be outputs. Now we could do this. We could put difference, and we could then once we have the difference, Shift Control R I hope works, and then we could make a goal seek to make that difference equal to 0 by adding a line item here for add the equity issues or buybacks. Now, excuse me, when we do that, now we're going to have to add that rather to this one. So far I'm just going to add it to our check calculation. Okay, and then we would have to, then we can also put it in this calculation, and let's make absolutely sure. That's just our equity balance calculation. Shift Control R, and let's make absolutely sure that, well, that's in there already. Good. Okay. Now, if I do it with a goal seek right now, it wouldn't work. Now, if you have multiple goal seeks, or you want to do them all at the same time, you can just use the solver. I suppose I'll do this. I'm reluctant to use the solver right now, and I'm not going to bother with it because it looks like I lost it somehow. I thought we opened it. No, well, maybe I'd have to go to the... What happened to it? I thought it was in data, wasn't it? It was next to what if... Okay, whatever. But we'd have to use a constraint that all these equal to 0, and we'd change all of these ones. Make them all equal to 0 by changing all of these. There's probably also, I'm sure there's a solvable algebraic formula, but that will get very long and very kind of horrible. Okay, so the final way is we can use either a dynamic goal seek, well, really a dynamic goal seek, or try to do some kind of function. But the function won't work. We need a dynamic goal seek. Because we're going to change the equity issuance and make it gradually really negative, a very big negative number, and push it up and up and up. And as we push it up and up and up, eventually what will happen is this debt to capital, when it's extremely negative, the debt to capital will have a negative equity, so the debt to capital bill will be really high. Eventually it will get low as we put more and more and more equity in. The debt to capital could get down to 0. So eventually we'll find it. if we go from low to high and we set our constraints appropriately to get the whole thing started. But then the question is, once we do this dynamic goal seek here, how do we incorporate that with this one? Now, we've got about 3 or 4 different options, and here's what I'm going to try. And I admit I haven't tried it really before, so I'm trying it with a video just because I don't want to waste time doing it and then making another video, which maybe would be the best strategy. But if we put it inside this function, make it kind of a part of this function, it might really work, because we have to go around and around in this function, and the iteration part of this dynamic goal seek goes around and around as well. Now, there's a little bit of a problem when it goes around and around and around and around. We're kind of trying to find 2 things at the same time. But if we program the dynamic goal seek, it sounds all so fancy and sounds all so difficult. Please don't turn the video off just because of the fancy way it sounds. It's not that fancy. We have to make a little loop, and we just got to make this increment smaller and smaller and smaller. It's kind of like a little funnel, and it goes lower and lower and lower. And when that increment is really small, it'll be forced to go around and around and around, and essentially do the same thing as the iteration loop. Not exactly. So let's see if we can do this. The other thing we're going to do is, I'm fairly sure we're going to have 2 things going out here. So just to review how that works, well, I'm gonna just do it. Okay, so when we want to have 2 things, we put as variant here. Okay, and then next thing we can do is put a dimension output. Output is not a special name, of course. And I'm going to have 1 row and 2 columns. And we'll put it as single. Okay. And we go through all of this, and whenever we're finished with this loop, okay, and right now we're finished with this loop down here, but we're going to make it different anyway. But we would put we named this as net cash flow, didn't we? Okay. I hope we did. Okay, and we put net cash flow equal output 1, but not what I'm going to change the name of this. Now, what's going to happen is that's going to screw up the whole model, but don't worry. And we'll call this, and you know what I'm going to also do? Well, no, I'll just leave that. I was going to rename it and copy it, and we'll rename it. So let's call it some kind of general name. We'll name it cash reconcile or something. Okay. Now, once we have this, we can output 1, 2. That's going to be the second output, is net cash flow. Okay, and the output 1 1. That's the first row, the first, I'm sorry. I did this wrong, didn't I? Shit. Equals equity issuances. Now, I didn't have to do it like this. It really kind of is irritating. So we can just put output 2 like this. And we can output 1. I think. No, it might be wrong. Well, let's try it. Oh, sorry. Okay. And at the very end, and instead of exit function, let's put exit the for loop. Okay, and just a minute, I thought I had a problem. Okay, excuse me for that. Checking my stupid phone. That's really bad. You shouldn't check your phone in the middle of a video, should you? And then at the very end, we can put cache reconcile equal output. That's kind of the way to do this. I don't know why. There are probably 20 different ways to do it. Now, I think it might be, we'll have to do it differently. So right now, if we do this, we get a name, okay? And we can instead call this cache reconcile. Okay. Now if we press, let me see, I'm going to put it up here. Uh-oh. I'm going to maybe make it like this. Okay, how's that? Okay. So I'm pretty sure that this won't work, but F2, Shift Control Enter, it didn't work. To Shift Control Enter. Oh shit. Okay, I can't even get our thing back. Shit. Just a minute. Okay, here's what you really should do when you have this kind of problem. And I'm at fault for not doing it enough. If I have I'm making a little test program that's going to just have an output that's either 1 or 2, exactly what we did before. And I want to see if this puts it in a row or a column, and in fact it puts it in the same row. Let's just show you. So this, it's right here. Okay, we select the 2 things, put equal test, Shift Control Enter, and it has 1 and 2 together. Okay, now if I want it to go the other way, it doesn't work. That I don't have to show you that, I hope. So what I'd have to do is I believe I'd have to put 1, comma 1 and 1, comma 2, and we put it like this. Let's try this. So now we press F2, Shift Control, and it didn't work. Shit. Shit. Okay, this is what you have to do. you have to put 2 different rows in, and then 1 column. Why? For me, that doesn't quite make sense. Where did we put our output dimension output? So we need to make it go 2, 1. And now we have this one. No, I can't change this array. Okay. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Let's copy this. I imagine somebody made it's not funny, it's kind of stupid. I'm sure somebody made a macro that does this. Okay, so now if we press F2, Shift Control Enter. Oh, I forgot to name that cache reconcile. Okay. Tab over, of course. Wrong number of, oh, of course. Now we have to put this as, it did tell us that we put one at the end of, one at the end. Okay. Now okay, and then we can copy this across. So the good news is that we've got it back, and we finally got a system that will give us 2 different output variables. So let me just tell you something. This looks like an enormously stupid and simple kind of example. Oh, all you have is a simple balance sheet. Well, we needed the historic balance sheet. You went and made depreciation, and you had to put the use a solver to get the depreciation working. It wasn't so easy. Minimum cash balance, I don't know why in the hell I can never get that right, but I never seem to get that right. Putting the debt balance and the minimum balance in, we used a little cash flow waterfall with minimum and max statement. And then, of course, we needed the whole thing here. We have a little bit of a problem with the minimum and max statement with the cash taxes. And now we're finally at the stage where we'd like to compute the debt balance correctly. So it looks like it's all such a simple case, and it's not that simple at all. Okay? And now let's start with our different loop. So what we're going to try to do is just put this whole thing in a different loop. Now what I'm going to do is I should save it almost as a different file, but I'm going to be brave and save it as the same file, especially since that last thing just worked. Now what we're going to do here is, instead of going around the iteration, we're going to go around the equity balance, and we're just going to put an equity issue and go, instead of from 1 to 20, we go from start to finish. Now I'm getting used to this a little bit, so I'll do it more quickly, not that you will the first time. You're smarter than me. Got any kind of average intelligence. Let's start with a divisor that's pretty big. No, small. 10. Okay. And then the starting and then we have to put step increment. Now, so with the way these things work, that I do it at least, is you go from the beginning to the end with an increment, and each time you go around, you redo this loop and try to hone in on the equity issuance that's going to make it work. And that means we're going to have a restart. Now, that could be, I don't know, named something else, okay? And we're going to start with a really high debt to capital. So eventually somewhere here where we have this stuff, instead of this, we'll put, I don't know why I put this here, it kind of got lucky. We should be down here perhaps. But we'll put let's just leave that for a minute. If the debt to capital that we compute is greater than, because we start with, see, I got it wrong. We're going to start with a really high debt to capital of, let's say, 100. So if it becomes less than the target debt to capital, this is that, then we're going to, okay, if and we don't need an so we can, let's put a little comment here. When debt to cap gets small, restart. And the way we restart is we can first set, if the absolute value, that's kind of just the one we have up here, of the debt to cap minus the target debt to cap is less than 0.001, then, and this one we exit the function. And right here, this is where we can define our things. Okay. So we put end if, and I suppose we could either get out of the for loop or get out of the whole function. I'm going to say exits function. I'm going to be aggressive. Okay. That's really the end. Now, it's possible whenever you do this, you better have a counter. And somewhere down here, this should be next equity issue. And if count is greater than, let's say, 300, then we'll do the same thing. Okay. We can go like this. Nope. Okay. Okay. And we didn't put the key thing in here. Okay. And we need this one here. Okay. Now, and we don't need this exit 4 here. Okay. What we do there, if it's not then, so if this doesn't happen, we don't really need a else or anything else. We just, then we have start equal equity issue minus the increment. Now, we better make sure this increment is positive. If it's negative, this whole thing will get into some kind of infinite loop. We've got a big danger of the infinite loop here. Now, finish equals equity issues. And now let's be a little aggressive. Let's say divisor equal divisor plus 5. Now there's probably some scientific Google mathematics who say exactly how much you should increase the things like the divisor by, but we'll just do it like this. And then we put increments equals finish minus start divided by a divisor. So that if the divisor is really big, this increment gets really small, and it's going to have to go around and around a whole bunch of times. And then we go to restart. Okay, now the only thing we haven't done is got the whole thing started. We need the target debt to capital, but before we get this, let's put the debt to capital cap equals ending equity, ending debt, divided by ending capital. So far okay, but ending capital equals ending debt plus ending equity. Now the good news is that we have the ending debt. Net cash flow is, and somewhere we have the new debt issued. Did we even compute? We didn't compute the closing debt, but it's going to be the ending debt equal opening debt. Now, what did we call it? Open debt or opening debt? No, we have the closing debt. We have the closing debt up here. Excuse me. And instead of, so I'm going to put, I'm going to call it closed debt. Excuse me for this. We might as well call it close equity. Now, we better put an if statement here. If the ending cap not equal 0, and just in case, I don't know, we could put even debt to cap 0.9 or something, okay? I don't know why I did that really, but okay, so we're going to get rid of this one, and we're going to go around and around, and hopefully when the target debt to capital, it'll have to do so much work to get that right that that's enough to get the cash flow to reconcile. We'll see if it works. Okay. Now the closing equity we don't have, do we? We do have the opening equity, and we have the net income and the dividends. We have the NI and the dividends here. So okay, so the closing equity equals the opening equity. Now we don't have either the opening equity or the target debt to capital, so that's what we're going to have to include in our function arguments, plus the net income, minus the dividends, plus the equity issue. Okay, now and I think we have everything, don't we? Okay. Where is the closing equity? Okay, I think excuse me for pausing just for a minute, but that's essentially the calculations we need. So we need the open equity, and then we have the target debt to capital. Target debt to capital. I hope we have that. Okay, now the final thing we have to do is really get this started. Now I'll put start equals 0 minus open equity minus open debt, and finish equal open equity plus open debt. Now and increment equals finish minus start divided by divisor. Okay, and now let's also put a count equals 1, and we can put a count equal count plus 1. Okay, now so let's just review what we've done. The start is a minus, and the finish is a plus, so we have a very big increment. Divisor is only by 10. And so it's a very big number. The equity issue is a very big negative number at first, which means that the debt to capital will be a really high number. So the debt to capital should be, equity is about 0, and debt is high because we have to borrow all this money. So the debt to capital is really high, and then eventually the debt to capital will be less and less until it finishes. Now last time I had to go even further. just to really go completely crazy, I multiplied this minus number by 2, and because we want to make absolutely sure that we don't just for some reason skip over this. Okay, I don't know why you ever really would, but that's what we have, and you can see that I'm afraid to try this, so I'm going to save this. This is the biggest deal. I saved it. And now, when we do this, we remember, let's press Control F3. We need to put our opening equity here, which I suppose the easiest place to find that is down at the balance sheet. And then we put our okay, come on, okay, shit. Okay, the video has gone on for about an hour. It's really actually gone on in the course of the whole day, and I've been switching it on and off. And I think it's finally working, and I hope that you experience the joy of it and see how that you can put this all together. I'll tell you a couple of the things that drove me a little crazy. Number one, the convergence. When I tried to make the divisor go up, in other words, the increment go down, that was causing a little bit of a problem. It couldn't converge. I multiplied this increment by 2. I don't even know if I had to do that. But the good news is it's kind of finished, so let's just see how it works. So you press it here. I just copied it across. Now what we can do here is change the capital structure. Let's say we want to go up to a 55% capital structure. Okay, everything's working. Right? There's a little problem here that the dividends can be negative, and we should change that both in the function and in the macro. But the key point is that you can get automatic capital structure to work. You can get a circular reference resolved. You can get the net operating losses fixed, and don't forget we put all that depreciation and expense together with the solver function. Those are all the key kind of points in this corporate model. So this corporate model, if anybody's still listening to this video, I would be shocked. But this corporate model will be put up here prominently in building a corporate finance model from A to Z. Okay, and I don't know. Probably. I might even put it all the way right at the top, because it kind of has got most of the key points in it. So it'll be in corporate model exercises. The videos that assume you're watching will be here, and we'll put this one right up here next to the picture of Prague. Okay, so that's the end of this video.